Hello, dear friends. I analyze this economic issue with the utmost objectivity and without taking sides. Opinion piece. The BRICS challenge. A glimpse into future. The surprise factor. Storm of change. Summit in South Africa. Paradigm shift. China has gone ahead. Chinese dragon gold. The fiat money crisis. China resists the gold standard. It wants to protect its exports. Isaac Newton defended the gold standard. Let's start. A new geopolitical environment is taking shape with the plans of the BRICS group to develop a new common currency and the wild tendency to reduce dependence on the dollar. There are indications that the new gold-linked trade settlement currency will be proposed at the BRICS summit in Johannesburg on August 22nd-24th, but details of the proposal have yet to be revealed. The mounting pressure for a new world currency comes after continued economic militarization in the form of sanctions and trade wars, with many countries seeking greater independence from the financial system. In this sense, the BRICS leaders will discuss again this month in South Africa the issue of the common currency as a possible alternative to the current world reserve currency. Many of the BRICS attendees to the South Africa meeting may need to rely on China's yuan via a currency vote if they want to seek gold backing for their currencies. The rest of the world faces the possibility of being caught in a fiat currency collapse with no visible escape. There is a gold deficit in Western nations due to the large amount of value migrating from the West to the East, but the global desire to get rid of the Western fiat currency is growing. Return to gold. There are reports that the common currency of the BRICS group would be backed by gold. This would be a historic return to the gold standard and would bring stability to the new currency. The dollar delinked from this precious metal in 1971 due to its insufficient gold reserve. A few years later, then Secretary of State Henry Kissinger visited King Faisal of Saudi Arabia to negotiate the petrodollar system, agreeing to provide military support in exchange for OPEC selling oil for dollars on a global scale. The currency peg to oil prolonged its dominance, creating a global demand for the dollar to buy oil. Saudi Arabia's finance minister announced at the Davos Forum that his country was open to trade in other currencies, something it hasn't done in almost 50 years. As dependence on the dollar decreases, central banks will begin to dump their dollar reserves. This would result in hyperinflation and increase in interest rates to compensate for the loss of purchasing power and falling asset prices. Transformation. The global economic landscape is on the verge of a potential transformation as anticipation builds for the upcoming BRICS summit in South Africa this month. The stage is set for a paradigm shift in global finance. This latest cheat sheet reveals a series of interconnected dots that shed light on the intricate journey towards the possible release of Western fiat currencies. The foundations for a new financial landscape are being laid as economists, investors, and policy makers grapple with the intricate web of gold and its credit relationships. The possibility of a return to the gold standard is being discussed in a new trading settlement coin backed by these precious metals emerges. Gold reserves must cover the issuance of banknotes, and it is estimated that both China and Russia have coverage to apply the gold standard. Other allied nations may apply currency votes to the renminbi. Conversion boxes. China, Russia, and other countries are in a stronger position to operate currency votes linked directly or indirectly to gold. A currency vote is a system that fixes the exchange rate to an anchor currency and guarantees convertibility. A currency vote requires enough foreign exchange reserves to cover the entire limited money supply and provides confidence to currency holders. The role of the monetary authority is limited to controlling the issuance of currency and must be separated from government financing and banking supervision. The classic gold standard and currency vote systems share the separation between the issuance of currency and banking responsibilities. On the classical gold standard, the gold backing for the currency needs not to be 100%. Isaac Newton proposed a minimum formula of 40%. The law of bank letters of 1844 required the Bank of England to back each additional note in circulation with gold. Critics argue that currency votes and gold standards are too inflexible, but this feature is deliberate. Governments without welfare commitments can more easily avoid budget deficits under these systems. The weakness of emerging economies' currencies is often attributed to their mismanagement, lack of international credibility, and misguided monetary policies. African nations face challenges in undoing progress made under colonial rule and exploring self-determination, often experiencing corruption and mismanagement. Africa. China offers investment in African infrastructure through local partnerships, providing an alternative to foreign aid and potential economic growth. As this agenda, backed by key players such as Saudi Arabia and Iran, gains momentum, the consequences for energy and commodity exporters are growing. The cornerstones of this transformation would be the establishment of a gold-backed trade settlement currency within the BRICS framework, the aim of which would be to establish the new industrial revolution for emerging nations with credible gold standards. A gold-backed trade settlement currency would provide an attractive alternative means of payment for energy and commodity exporters. The next step involves the transition of the main currencies within the BRICS bloc to gold standards. The introduction of a gold-backed trading currency would undermine the purchasing power of Western currencies, leading to higher oil and gas prices. As the dollar weakens, both the ruble and renminbi are likely to seek protection through gold to mitigate the potential fallout. China. China's decades-long orchestrated holding of gold sets the stage for an influence on the unfolding narrative. Under the strategic direction of the People's Bank of China, the nation's gold reserves assume multifaceted roles, contributing to its financial leverage. China implemented regulations in June 1983 to strengthen its control of gold and silver, guarantee state requirements, and combat smuggling and speculation. The People's Bank of China is responsible for controlling gold and silver in China, which has become the world's largest gold producer, mining 6,869 tons since 2002, and processing this gold through state-owned refineries. The regulations establish the state monopoly on gold and silver, allowing free importation but strictly controlling exportation. The People's Bank of China established the Shanghai Gold Exchange in 2002 under its control to allow the public to purchase gold while maintaining state control over commodities. China has been holding gold for 19 years before allowing private ownership in 2002. The People's Bank of China is estimated to have quietly held it up to 25,000 tons during this period. The cost of accumulating gold in China is equivalent to approximately 10% of its exports during that period. This exact amount of gold hoarded in China is speculative, but it is clear that the significant unreported reserve was deliberately hoarded in 2002 and allocated to various state entities. Gold deliveries to the public since 2002 through the Shanghai Gold Exchange have totaled more than 22,000 tons. Assuming that the Chinese monetary authorities have 25,000 tons of gold available for monetization, the money supply would be covered by 1.5 times the current gold prices. Chinese project. China has been ahead for the game in the race to modernize global money flows, thanks to a new platform to expand the reach of the digital yuan and other currencies. The BRICS project, based on the blockchain, is a Beijing-backed digital prototype that allows money to be sent around the world bypassing traditional channels. The BRICS is a joint creation between the People's Bank of China, the Hong Kong Monetary Authority, the Bank of Thailand, the Central Bank of the United Arab Emirates, and the Bank for International Settlements Innovation Center. The aim of this pilot project is to create a possible way to boost the internationalization of the yuan while maintaining a strict control over its national currency. In fact, it is about developing the large-scale use of blockchain technology to solve international payments. Asian nations are not alone in this adventure. The Bank for International Settlements of Basel, Switzerland, a center for global cooperation and between central banks. The project is expected to be ready by the end of the year, according to sources cited by Bloomberg. Similarly, the Central Bank of Thailand has claimed that BRICS could reduce the time for cross-border transfers from 5 days to a few seconds. Bookings, plural. China and Russia are moving towards protecting their currencies and their joint project for the global industrialization of emerging economies by adopting gold standards. China has secretly hoarded gold bars since 1983, and if the People's Bank of China had hoarded 20,000 to 25,000 tons in the 2002, the total could top 30,000 tons today. Russia accelerated its plans to acquire monetary gold after Western sanctions. Both China and Russia appear to be in a position to comfortably hedge their limited measures of money supply, particularly notes issued by the Monetary Authority. Asian central banks are also reporting the accumulation of larger gold reserves, which would indicate broader adoption of the gold standard. The adoption of the gold standard by China and Russia would lead to an accelerated destruction of Western purchasing power, which is already on a path of decreasing value due to its debt trap. However, China's economic goal to protect its exports may make a gold standard unlikely, as it would undermine major fiat currencies. China is increasingly focused on protecting its investment in Asia, Africa and the Americas, as rising interest rates can be detrimental to emerging nations, which may encourage them to seek protection by joining the BRICS. Glance to the future. With China and Russia at the forefront of a potential transformation, this cheat sheet illuminates the journey into a new economic era on the verge of redefining the global financial order. The Russian-Chinese axis sees clear advantages in supporting a new gold-backed currency for commodity purchases and trade deals, and the introduction of such a currency could happen quickly, taking the world by storm. The fiat currency regime is believed to have run its course, leaving multiple debt traps and the prospect of stagflation and worse within the Western alliance. The global fiat currency regime is facing existential crises, including government debt traps, a shifting credit cycle, and the inability of major central banks to bail out failing commercial banks. The collapse of the bullion trading system could exacerbate the problems due to the end of the fiat currency system. China and Russia have prepared for this moment, with enough bullion available to cover their tight money supply and protect their currencies from a fiat currency crisis. Other nations may find it more difficult to move towards gold backing their currencies due to a shortage of monetary gold. Reset news. According to Goldilocks, we currently have two RBs up and running. One is for the banking system and the other one is for the people. The first has to be done before we can move on the second. Market risk is increasing. Stay tuned. The welfare state cannot be the welfare of the state, according to Joaquín Gómez. The first obligation of the government should be to protect the rights of its citizens and not put them into debt under slogans. The great threat to private banking are the digital currencies of emerging countries. According to Restored Republic, a battle for the future of humanity begins. The tempest of change is reeling between nations and blows and counter-blows increase. According to David Wilcock, the US is preparing to deploy 7 naval fleets between 180 and 350 warships, battleships, aircraft carriers, cruisers and submarines around the world in 22 time zones. Excuse me. According to the Storm Radar, they would be modifying the temperature data of the last 30 years to make them compatible with the narrative. The Storm Radar claims that the intended invasion of Niger would trigger a wave of uprisings in other African countries. At the same time, more than 24 countries in Africa signed an agreement with Russia in a pact to work together and cut ties with the UN and NATO. Several more neutral African countries are planning to sign an alliance with Russia, and more than 20 African countries have started to fly the Russian flag. At the same time, Russia deploys the Wagner Group to Niger, Africa, to defend the military coup that overthrew the puppet government. Putin publicly declares that he has begun the end of the New World Order. White hat intelligence agencies in South America are monitoring the fake alien invasion and will carry out counterattacks. The White Hats have plans to restore order within 30 days of the blackout and world collapse. To help control the coming chaos, they have planned a communications blackout for the 30 plus major countries, which have plans to overthrow their corrupt governments. Benjamin Fulford thinks on Telegram that this scary event would be necessary. WikiLeaks has released a slew of so-called Year Zero files that mark the biggest exposure of espionage secrets to date. Chile leads artificial intelligence, but Mexico and Brazil concentrate the patents. Scientists create a universal clock that can calculate the age of all mammals. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.